Hello and welcome to Gorilla and the Geek, the podcast for sweaty nerds by sweaty nerds. My name is Kyle from Geeks Weekly, and I'm joined as always by my good friend John, the Ginger Gorilla. John, how you doing today?
Kyle, I'm shivering in my boots. Finished the last episode this morning of Haunting of Hill House, what we're talking about today, what this video is on, and you know what? I realized definitely scarier than the first one. Now, I watched it mostly during the day.
What do you
this
mean
time.
scarier than the first one?
Like, in the sense of the first one I felt like was a thrill.
Are you referring to the second one?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Scarier than the Bly Manor.
Then Bly Manor.
Yes. Bly Manor, thrilling. Right? Hill House, creepy.
Okay.
That's how I would like creepy, thrilling. Like those would be the big bold words. But with that said, I'm happy I watched this one the second time because this is my second viewing. Kyle's first. And I watched it during the day, which was nice. The first time I watched it was solely at night, and that really affected the ambiance of the show. This time I was truly able to enjoy the show. One, because I probably knew a lot of the story, so it wasn't as creepy. But also, just having it during the day, it was just like, okay, I'm safe. Nothing bad happens during the day.
Yeah, so I watched the show all in one day. I watched it last Sunday. And you know I'm gonna be honest. The first episode, one episode in, I was kind of like, up until the end of the episode, I was like, this is kind of hard to get into. It's a little all over the place. There's a lot of jumping back and forth. I don't really care about this guy, Steven. He's not really that interesting of a protagonist.
Steve, no
or
N.
Steve. I'm sorry. I'm not really. I'm like into this girl, Nell, although she's like, I don't know what's going on with her in this house, why she's dancing like that. Uh, Everything's really dark and really dour. And then you get the twist at the end of the episode that Nell had died when she visited the house. And then I was kind of like, oh, okay, hold on. So there's some interesting stuff to be had here. And then I just decided I'm just going to bang out the whole thing in one day, see what that binge experience is like. And, honestly, it's a pretty bingeable show, especially when you consider shows that like this, where there's twists and turns at multiple corners. Each episode is character driven, which I want to get into in a little bit. It allows you to get a satisfying experience watching it in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a show that I think would have worked in the in the classic television sense where there's weekly episodes. I don't think it would have worked as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say the modern one is bingeable.
Yeah, exactly.
But I understand that, and it's one of those shows. The only way that I could see it working in a weekly release is just the thrill of it and the questioning of like I want more, like, I want answers. I think that anticipation would build, and that could be cool. But I totally understand where I think watching it one straight through, where everything's fresh in your head, and watching it quick is probably some of the best because of the fact of how it's set up and that you get answers eventually. It's easier to remember what you're getting the answers to and how those feelings that you felt of confusion when it first happened, right? So like when scenarios were first set up and you're just like, what the hell is going on? This is creepy. Like, and then eventually towards the end, you're like, oh, that's why that was like that. And I think that feeling and that satisfaction is greater because you can watch it quicker.
Yeah, 100%. And this one came out 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, I can actually tell you. I have the IMDb pulled up. October 12th, 2018.
Yeah, it's interesting. I for some reason it feels like it was only last year, but I think that's because this year just feels so weird,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you can see why the showrunners got a second go at things with Bly Manor when you see this show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad they use the same cast for both
I
seasons.
love
A lot of really talented actors.
I love when shows do that. I don't know why I like it so much because I think it's almost like how we've talked about like the whole Adam Sandler type of thing where you use the same group and that group is like it feels like they'll be more invested into the work, right? because
Possibly.
almost like the American Horror Story squad. They use that same actor, Sarah Paulson, the kid who played Quicksilver, um, the other people,
I
the
don't watch the show, so I can really
really
comment on it.
famous one, whatever. If you watch American Horror Story, everybody knows what I'm talking about with the same people. And it's the same people, and you like grow to like, oh, I can't wait to see who they're gonna play this season. And I hope we get a third season. Um, Obviously we're kind of, our video releases are the Blind Manor, which is technically the second season, and then we're going back for me a recap, for you your first watch for Hill House. But I really hope we keep this haunting of series going. It's fun, and I hope they continue to use the same cast or a lot of the same members, because it's always fun being like, wow, I remember when they played this person, and now their role is playing this one, and it's cool seeing the actors like stretch their chops, because what you realize is they play drastically different people for the most part. Most of the characters play drastically different people in one season to the next. Um, and that's always fun to see for me. I don't know why I like it so much. It's just it's very enjoyable to see these people like stretch their acting wings.
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, what I think is really cool is what you were saying in seeing the very, very drastically different characters that some of these people play. Like you look at the actor who played Luke in Hill
Yeah,
House.
and Peter
His ca-
in
yeah,
Blind Manor.
his character in Blind Manor is such an awful person. I mean, like you think about Luke and it's the struggles of being an addict and all that, and he's unquestionable stuff, to say the least.
Hmm.
However, he's generally speaking a good person.
Yeah, they all his family is always saying how he's a good person. It's just he does bad things due to the addiction.
Yeah, so you go from those very two different worlds. It's just kind of fun and refreshing to see. You don't really get that experience often. I know that you get it with the
Horror Story, American
American
Horror
Horror
Story.
Story show, but I usually don't get that experience from my watching stuff. So it's really cool. But why don't we get into some specifics about the show that we liked in terms of this season? What stood out to you on your what first stood out to you on your rewatch?
Once again, it's that camera work. Um, the angles they take, when they choose to focus on one thing, or and then they have like say something, they focus on something in the foreground while something is in the background. Um, Having things show up in reflections of like a doorknob or that phonogram thing that they had. It's just the camera work and the skill to emphasize that creepiness that I stated earlier. I love that about this show. It was, we talked about it in the last pod, and I said how much I loved it in Blind Manor, and it's that love came from Hill House. Like I love that the filming that they use and the techniques that are above my pay grade that I don't really know about, but whatever they are, I love that, and it's filmed so well because it doesn't once again, it doesn't play off of cheap jump scares, right?
Mm.
There are a couple jump scares here, but they use them strategically because they built up so much tension throughout all the episodes and through the filming.
Yeah, there was one jump scare in particular in Hill House that made like my I collapsed into my body.
Was that the
Um,
car
yeah,
ride?
that car one is
That was
rough,
the worst,
man.
dude. I remember the first time I watched it, and like the second time I was kind of prepared because I remember I was like, "Oh, this is when this happens." First time me and my girl Punkbox, we were watching it, and we both like physically jumped, like we were like, "Oh my god," because
Yeah.
it's so, and but it was due to that tension, I think, that built it up so much that like in the moment they're arguing, like, and then that there's that tension, and there's just
Well,
like,
it's that's the genius about that type of jump scare. It's distraction first.
yes.
You're not expecting anything because you're just focused on these two people talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, you're that classic horror movie scene where someone's like rounding the corner and they
Mm-hmm.
look and the person's not there and they turn around, that's where the person is. It's not one of those.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more there's a little bit more care there. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned the way it's filmed. One of the things that I really appreciated about it from in terms of in terms of filming, a lot of scenes kind of felt like I was watching a play.
Hmm.
The director really kind of just let the actors do their thing.
Hmm.
There's a lot of long moments of dialogue in the show, like a lot of them, and they're very well delivered, but shot in one long take.
We noticed that, and I that is something that's like I like refreshing to see.
It makes them
Because
more effective.
yeah, and I know it might be easier to like cut things together for filming process. I obviously editing process is probably not easier, but the filming process of like being able to chop all this stuff together so you could get the perfect scene, in the art, like the director's eyes or whoever's putting it together. But it is nice to have that long drawn out. Yeah, there's something about it that really adds emphasis to the scenes.
Well, I mean, it's just number one. I'm sure from an acting perspective, it's really cool to get your director to have so much trust in you that he's just like, all right, I'm gonna let you go. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna get the camera rolling. And number two is like, I'm someone who I hate in action movies when there's a lot of jump cutting, not jump cutting,
Hmm.
but like fast twitchy camera where like it'll cut back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
I also feel that way with dialogue. I think if someone's talking, it's good to get reaction shots, but if someone's saying something of emphasis, like for some reason, for me, the biggest example of this, there were two actually. One was when Theodora was talking after that car scene when she's on the ground and she's
Hmm.
delivering her soliloquy where she's crying. And the second was Mr. Dudley when he's explaining what the house did to his wife.
Oh man, that's a good scene.
And the camera is just focused in on him the
Hmm.
entire time. And it goes to Mr. Kane once or twice, but it's mostly on him.
His acting in that scene of where he's as he's saying the story, he's getting more emotional and almost frightened again
Exactly.
is amazing. And I do like that because since it is long and drawn out, you get to see that progression
That's
that
the
the
thing.
actor is portraying, and that is it's those small things as we were saying that really adds to the show of like, oh wow, this really affected this person, and then you feel it almost.
That's the thing, man. And the reason, like, you know, a little behind the scenes stuff when it comes to like deciding, all right, let's talk about this thing. If it's not something really topical and something that like would draw in people to want to listen to us talk about it,
Hmm.
there has to be a reason for me to want to discuss something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? This show has so much care behind it from all parties involved, from what I can see. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but just from the outside looking in, it looks like the people crafting the show, performing in the show, care about the content.
Hmm.
And when you show that you care, the quality is obviously going to go up. And that's stuff like this is happening. And shout out to Netflix for one greenlighting the show and two for giving it that second season. But it's kind of hard not to see why they wouldn't. You know, it's
Yeah.
and again that while that first episode wasn't my favorite, there was a lot of great stuff throughout it. And there was one episode in particular, and we can get into the favorite episode category now if you want,
Yeah.
where when I watched it, as soon as it ended, I texted John and I said, "That's the darkest episode of television I've ever watched in my entire life."
Hmm.
And for me, that episode and my favorite episode of the season was the bent neck lady. That episode spends so much time building you up and tearing you down again multiple times, and is so effective in every single way possible. The big reveal at the end of that, oh, spoilers, by the way.
Yeah.
The big reveal at the end, I don't think we said anything spoiler filled
No.
yet. So we're about to. The big reveal that Nell has was the bent neck lady the entire time
Hmm.
was soul crushing. Didn't see it coming whatsoever. Did you see that coming the first time you watched it?
Not at all. Not at all. And when it that's one of those things that I mentioned or alluded to earlier of like when it finally comes to fruition and you're like, oh my, it all makes sense of how it's connecting and things are interweaving. Um, it's just so crazy. And then it makes you think about all the underlying possibilities of like um like meanings. Like there's underlying meanings that you could attribute yourself to it of
Hmm.
like, oh, well, does this mean like this or does this mean that? Where the writer was probably like, it means this one thing. But I feel like the internet could take and roll with this idea of her being afraid of her own death her whole life or being afraid of like um whatever. Like you could roll with it. And I love those opportunities because it's just so it was so intriguing. And I mean it like you said, soul crushing because it's like the way they portray Nell is just so sweet and innocent throughout the whole show. Um, and that was the bent neck lady episode about was that the episode where you see her husband die too?
Yeah, whole thing.
Dude, yeah, it was just so it's like she's been through so much and you progressively watch her go crazy.
Yeah,
Um, and it makes me terrified of sleep paralysis.
which I get, and
Ugh.
it's not fun. Yeah, it. I mean, although I will say shout out to the show for putting it out there that like, it's a normal thing. A lot of people experience it, and there's ways to get yourself out of it, which I kind of self discovered, and I was like, oh yeah, I do that too. But it's yeah, that whole episode, you start off with young Nell, and you do some flashbacks here and there. You see her meeting her eventual husband, their wedding, his passing, which like when I first watched the episode and he passed, I was like, oh my god, the bent neck lady killed him.
Mhm.
And then you realize he actually did just have an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Like that, it just happened.
Mhm.
And what she saw was her ghost reliving that moment.
Yeah.
Like that.
And that
Oh,
that
it's so
that was the
awful.
thing that I liked with the end of it. It makes you ask, it's like, okay, do you when you die, do you relive your moments of your life? And that's
Yeah, too.
why it was appearing like in all those moments. It was
Hmm.
just moments of her life where she would see it. It's just because she's reliving her life as she died. Like,
Yeah, the
um,
worst moments though.
yes. But maybe that's because of the house, right? Like that's
Yeah,
where we could just attribute the horror of this house and the evil of this house. Um, that's the reason that it shows you all the bad moments because you died there, so now you're gonna suffer, and that's part
yeah.
of the suffering.
And I'm sorry. I feel like I'm totally stealing the whole category. Is that your favorite episode, or do you have another one?
I think that's my favorite episode too, just because
Okay.
of I mean, it is that roller coaster. It rips your emotions apart. That is not an episode you end on. And if you do end on that episode, you go and you watch something else after it,
Yeah.
so that you don't go to bed on that episode, right?
No way.
You turn on a funny show. Check out the Burt Kreischer's Cabin. We use that
Mm.
as a little lightheartedness after uh, shows. Um, but I also really liked the Screaming Mimi's episode, which was the second to last one.
Whew.
Um,
That
because
one.
it was just
That
it's
was
once
something.
again those fears and that darkness that's coming through again, and that I really enjoyed that. Because and it's starting to piece everything together, and I like
Yeah.
those episodes where you start learning all these like the piecings together. But then that also goes with the last episode. I think that's one thing I like about this show. I feel like they wrap the storyline up very well. Especially this season. I think now. I mean, we could talk about this now, or I don't know if you want to get to later about the ending. Um, but I think I like this season's ending better than Blind Manor.
Yeah. I
Um,
like the whole. I like the whole show better than Blind Manor.
yeah,
But that's not to say that I didn't like Blind Manor. I
yeah.
really did. But like we can get into all of it now. The You mentioned Screaming Mimi's. That episode, in my eyes, is just better than the one where they explain the story in Blind Manor.
Hmm.
The um the
Yeah.
the the reason why though, and this is the reason why I really liked Hill House more than Blind Manor, even though I still really like Blind Manor. I'm someone who I love when character drives story. I say it all the time. Movies or TV shows where story drives story, and little focus is given to the characters don't really draw me in much. I really like getting invested into the people. In this show, each episode is basically the story of one of the characters. And I think it's really
Hmm.
cool. So you're already invested in these people and the people we're talking about in the explanation episode.
Yeah.
In Bly Manor, we're talking about these women from ye- what, decades ago,
Yeah.
and it's intriguing, but it's not necessarily as compelling to me because it's an entire episode about people that I never knew.
Yeah, they put too much focus on the horror of the manor, or like the origin of the horror of the manor in
Yeah,
Bly Manor, where they were like, this house is just a bad house in
yeah,
this
they
one.
never really even
They
explained it,
really
right?
didn't explain why. When Poppy does her like monologue of when she's talking to Liv, Poppy's that cool ghost lady, um, and she's talking to Liv about either the murders in the house or how she lost her child, or she had. You could tell that maybe Poppy's the reason the house is bad. Um, Maybe Poppy was the turning point, because she suffered so much in that house because her son. I think I think her son died of polio. I think that
I
was
think
the
so
kid in the
too.
wheelchair. Um, and it seemed like there was like her family just suffered and died. Right, her one baby like died. Like it was a baby, and it just seemed like there was so much suffrage, and that maybe her soul tainted the house when she died. Um, but that they don't tell you, and I don't mind that. I don't need it. The fact that this is just a bad house, I'm sold,
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
because like I don't need this background story. And um maybe in Blind Manor you needed a little more background story because it was a person that was the cause of all the
The Lady in the
evil,
Lake, yeah.
the lady in the lake. So maybe if they didn't give us the origin of the lady of the lake, we'd be like, bro, she's the lady of the like, it's the main evil in this thing. Then maybe you'd get upset about it. Um, but I agree that like it was just, it. I felt like the story could have maybe been told more concise in the second in Blind Manor.
Possibly.
Um, but yeah, this I love the fact that they told these individual stories for each character, but then also interweaved the grand story into it. So that I
100%.
thought that the storytelling of this season is impeccable. Like it's done so well, and I mean I can't comprehend how people sit down and write these stories.
Hmm.
I just can't wrap my brain around it, of like sitting it out, planning it, and then like having to go through and fill it all in. So like, bravo to all them.
Well, I've listened to some writers talk about like how they come to writing either a feature length film or a series or whatever. And a lot of times it comes from like an idea of like, oh, this would be a really cool scene. I wonder if I could build a story around this scene. Or, oh, this is a really cool moment.
It's like almost picture prompt. Remember when you had to write picture
Yeah,
prompt?
yeah, exactly. But the prompt comes from
Yeah, prompt is your head.
your own brain. Yeah, no, I shout out to the writers of the show. But we mentioned characters a bunch here. Who is your favorite character from Hill House?
Theo, hands down.
Interesting. Okay.
I just there's something about her character that it draws me in. Of like, it's hard for her to connect to people because she feels too much.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is a very interesting character. And then they show you her little line of work, and it's literally feeling like she's just getting these feelings all the time of just sadness and abuse and whatnot, and she has to hold it together. Um, I think that's very. It was. I don't know what. Just something about that drew me to her, and the way the actress played it and everything was good.
Yeah, I think she did a really good job too. For me, it's Luke. And the reason being is because I find the character of Luke to be so tragic yet victorious. You go from
Mm,
this kid who's, he's got his twin sister. He seems to be like a bit of a dweeb,
mm-hmm.
maybe a bit of a family outcast. He's got this friend that people constantly tell him isn't real. And then, I mean, we'll discuss that in a little bit. And eventually he grows. I mean, his mom, the situation with that, and he eventually becomes an addict. And the fact that he didn't leave the uh, the center to return to his life of drugs, but actually to help someone.
Mhm.
He broke into his brother's apartment not to steal money for drugs, but to steal money for shelter. I think that character is so pleasant. I love the fact that he didn't die. I was really worried he was going to at the end.
Yeah.
Although that guy's got veins of steel. The fact that rat poisoning didn't
Hey,
kill him.
man, he has his immune system's been hit by, shock so much, maybe he was able to cope with it.
Yeah, seriously. By the way, do you think his girlfriend died that night when they broke out?
I don't know. I would like to optimistically say no, but also it might be the best for him
It's one of
if
those
she
things, right?
did.
It's kind of like
Yeah,
the
it's
Jesse
one of those
Pinkman
things.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because if let's say she didn't, he's clean now, and they end up somehow meeting back up, and she slips. One of the things I always say in rehab and things like that is you never get into a relationship because then you base your addiction and your sobriety off of that relationship. So if the relationship starts to crumble, then your sobriety will also start to crumble. Um, so I know that that's why they even mention it in the show that you're not supposed to form relationships. Like, and she's like of any type, because even friendships, if the friendship starts to crumble, then your sobriety will start to crumble, type of thing. That's how addicts, uh, mental, whatever, I don't know, brains deal
Mentality.
with it. Yeah, thank you. Um, and so it was very interesting. So I mean, I don't know, but I it's one of those things that I'm happy that we'll never get another like more to the story. I don't think it
Yeah,
ever
me
needs to
too.
be told.
Me too. I'm good
Um,
knowing that he was sober at the end
yes,
of the end of the
he's
show.
alive, he's sober, he's healthy. The family is probably more healed now than ever. Um, you see it when they're celebrating his 2 year, which is so funny because he is such an innocent. When he's sitting there in front of the cake, just like, and it says two on it, I felt like it was just so suiting that it's like almost like a 2 year old's cake, and he's just like
Yeah, just
with
super
everybody
happy.
around him. Yeah, because he seems so pure and almost like his mental was stunted in a way. Um,
Maybe.
like that he wasn't as mature as everybody else in a sense.
I'm gonna be honest
Um,
though. I mean I prefer people like that in real life who are that
yeah.
type of person. They're more pleasant to be around.
Hmm.
And that's I just found myself drawn to him. And shout out to that actor for being able to go from that to Peter, the
Yeah.
worst person in all of television.
Hmm.
Uh, and what about next category? What about your favorite performance?
Um. So I think it might have to be Liv. Just her being able to. I don't know, man. It was so hard because with Liv, she would go from being like in these almost like manic states to like snapping back and just having to figure out like where she is and what she's doing. Um, but Luke's performance, the actor who played Luke, as we just said it was such a good performance of playing an addict on recovery. Um, I don't. It's a hard one because then even the Mr. Dudley scene, where that one scene of him telling the story, that is just like a. I mean,
That's the
it's
best
such
acted
a
scene in the show, in my opinion.
yeah.
I have a couple of people who I wanted to shout out. I thought Kate Segal as Theodora. I thought she had, it's not easy to be overly emotional in a scene, I
Hmm.
would imagine. But her performance as Theodora in that moment where
After the car.
after the car, I thought it was really well done.
Hmm.
I thought that I thought Steven's character, which it's listed as Steven
Hmm.
on IMDb. That's why I said Steven the first time. I knew it was in my brain for some reason. Michael Huseman. I thought he had the most difficult job because he had to play the least likable character on the show at
Yeah.
first. And I think he did a really good job at that. And I think he did a really good job at turning it around by the end.
Yeah, the redemption of that character. And that's the thing I like about this season is every character leaves you with a good feeling at the
Yeah.
end, and you realize that none of them are actually bad.
And no
Um,
one's actually a piece of crap.
even the mom, even though she I mean, she did what she had to do. She did what she did. Not had to do, but she did what she did.
Yeah, I don't know if she
Um,
had to do that.
but even her, I don't think it was necessarily like she was a bad person. Like where I think Peter in Blind Manor is a bad person, right?
Yeah,
And
he's
you
he's
it
he's one of the few.
leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Where this one, it's like towards the end, you just have that good feeling. And there's not as much mixed emotions. It's just a feeling of like, okay, everything's at peace now. Everything's right. They know about the house. They know everything's resolved. The family's together. I feel good.
Yeah,
Um,
and but my biggest shout out, probably my favorite performance, has to go to Victoria Pedretti, who played adult Nell.
Interesting.
The way that she had to, she's so good at portraying scared in like a believable way,
Yeah.
and I think her frantic acting, the way she'd go from really quiet to attempting to be loud, was, I mean, really inspired stuff. I thought she did a phenomenal job. I was creeped out by her in the first episode, and then by the end, I felt so much sorrow for her
Hmm.
that it was kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to put into words. You know, at the end, in the final episode, she's, I mean, throughout the whole show, you realize that she's trying to send messages to her family to either stay away at the house, stay away from the house, I mean, or to come together at least.
It's
And, you know,
it's exactly what the dad was saying because at one point the dad explains how she would always send him letters and it would never be about her. It would always be telling him about the great things her brothers and sisters are doing.
mhm.
Um, and that character shines through even when she's dead. It's almost like she's like you said, trying to protect them. Um, and that is it's very true to her character, and that once again that story writing and the even just the minute details of everybody's characters is just so impeccable as we stated earlier. But I agree. The only thing that kind of skewed me, which I mean I probably would have said this the first time I watched of her performance being the best, but it's just her performance in this season and the next season. It's almost the characters are too similar. Um,
Interesting.
so in my head, it was almost like maybe that's the way she plays characters. Um, where like actor like Luke or the actor who played Luke and Peter, it's so vastly different. And I was like, man, that's some acting chops. Like he's got. I mean, he's got a range. Where the the woman who plays Nell and I forgot her name in Blind Manor, but Danny. I feel like those two characters have a lot of similar like mannerisms almost that she acted out.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, this they feel the same almost. They
Okay.
feel similar characters. But that doesn't mean she didn't act the hell out of it. Especially like you said with the the scenes where she has a sleep paralysis. That can't be easy to show fear in your face like that. And she did it so
Yeah.
well. Without having to talk or without having to they move. You can't really move. You just have to have it like in your eyes. You have to show the fear, and
And to be like
that's
genuine about it.
talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's talent right there. But so yeah, I agree that she acted the hell out of it. It was just that little caveat of now seeing the second season of being like, wow, it's the same character, not the same character, but it's a lot of same similarities between the characters. But I don't also think that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Uh, for the biggest jaw dropper of the season, I think mine might surprise you, so I kind of want to hear yours first.
Um, I think my biggest jaw dropper was when you found out that like the bent neck lady was Nell. Almost, I like because it was just I remember the first like I said the first time I watched it I was like oh my god it all makes sense of like it's just her own fear of death or the house just showing her future of what she's gonna do. Um, and it did it with other people too when Liv sees Nell on the table dead as an adult and Luke on the floor dying as an adult. It's like they show the future and Nell eventually says it where time isn't a line, it's confetti around you. So like you could almost hop from a moment to a moment. Um so I think it had to be the bent neck lady. Once again, watching it a second time, it's hard to remember what my biggest jaw dropper was. the first time because the second watch I was just like, ah, I remember when that happened. I remember when that happened. It wasn't necessarily the biggest surprise the second time.
So for me, the Bent Neck Lady episode, that ending was, oh my god, that my jaw did drop. But for me, the biggest one was, I think, at the end of Screaming Mimi's,
Hmm.
or in the middle of the final episode. I forget where they showed it.
Oh, but
Where, oh, go ahead.
I think I know what you're gonna get at.
Okay, where we see, number one, that Abigail is real,
Mm-hmm.
and at the beginning of the show, when we hear Hugh say, "That's not mom," in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe she either got possessed or the bent neck lady killed her, and that's who the kid saw. It was a bent neck
Yeah.
lady, not the mom.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's saying that he just saw his wife poison and kill a child,
And try to do it to his two children.
that to I was home alone facing the entire
Mm-hmm.
time, literally jaw on the floor stuff. I didn't see that coming at all. Even when Abigail was in the bed, I was like, "Is that a ghost? How is this happening?"
Especially because the way her hair's cut and she looks like a Puritan almost.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But then you look at her parents, and it's like, I guess that makes sense. Um, but like, I didn't even put it in my mind that was the daughter of the housekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
Not until they walked into the house.
Mm.
In my head, I was just kind of like, why did she just kill a kid? Where's that kid from? Oh my god! And the kid, like, I feel like she always has the same clothes as well. When you think like her Puritan parents
Yeah, like, and
probably made the same
they've
clothes
kept her
every day.
hidden, so they had to. They probably made her clothes, but even the
Yeah.
mom, like, so that's another one actress that I want to give like a shout out to is the mom. I
Let me get
forgot
her
her
name real
name.
quick. 1 second.
Yeah,
So Miss Dudley is played by Annabeth Gish.
but she played Miss Dudley really well because the way Mr. Dudley describes her is she's strong and a powerful woman, but you hear everything that's happened to her, like where she worked through being pregnant with her first child and then it's stillborn, and then she immediately has to go back to work.
Yeah.
Um, when you see her throughout the season, you're like, why is she so emotionless and stern? And you realize, well, that's why. Like her
Yeah.
emotion was probably pulled from her soul when all that happened, and like then she said they experienced their baby crying its first cry. Like they were so specific with the cry of it's like it's not like we just heard our baby crying in the house at night. We heard our baby cry the first cry it never got, and you're like, ooh, that has to be gut wrenching,
Yeah.
and like that's why they never come to the house again. And it's just like it makes sense to why she's kind of emotionless while she's there, and she just kind of like she comes off as stern. And then that emotion kind of breaks when she finds Abigail dead and then she sees the ghost. um you see more emotion in that actress, so I think that actress played her really well, so also shout out to her.
Yeah, man. I mean, that reveal, it was something else. And then like the fact that family, the Dudleys, the fact that they like appreciate the house
Mm.
for being haunted. Like at the end, you see Mr. Dudley carrying Mrs. Dudley as she's dying
Mm-hmm.
to make sure she dies in the house. That way, she's always there.
Yeah.
And then you imagine that he is going to go there when he dies as well,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can live there forever with their kids. Um,
Which, and then it makes sense to when Liv says this is our forever house. I mean, it is a forever house. That's
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
seriously, exactly. And I mean, like, no one's no one's doing. By the way, real quick, Luke, if you wanted to burn it down, couldn't you have done that during the daytime?
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Like now too, when she was like, well, it's now or never. I'm like, no, you could just wait until the morning. What are you doing? Everybody knows the house is so much. Any house is creepier at night, especially a big one. I said to Punkbox while we were watching, I'm like, we'll never get a big. I don't need a big house. I don't know why people are attracted to mansions and big houses. Like I get it. Oh wow,
It's a
amazing.
nightmare.
I'm afraid like in my normal apartment of like being alone and be like, someone could be in that other room and I don't know.
Yeah, the other
Like,
room,
could
let
you
alone the
imagine
next
a
wing.
house like oh man, like that's terrifying. Um, I mean, I don't get it. I'll never live in an old house like that. One, a house that is that big. Two, like no way, especially at night. Get out of here.
100%, I agree. Yeah, but I thought that was really well done. A couple of really good jaw droppers throughout the show, and I mean, so you had mentioned the other day while we were playing games
Hmm.
something about one of the characters mirroring.
Yeah, it was just the Nell and Danny, and then that
Okay,
they
so the way
both
that
ended up killing themselves,
interesting,
almost
right?
in a way to save a person or save people. Like I
Hmm.
realized that their characters mirror each other, and they both want to take care of people. Like her character, like that's what I said. I was like, maybe that's why it threw me off on her acting, is because of the fact that their characters mirror each other so much. I was like when I thought about that and realized that, I was like, that is crazy how much they actually do mirror each other. Um,
Did
which
you like the fate of the father?
um that he sacrificed himself almost.
Hmm.
I thought it was fitting. Um, just for the fact that he was like, I wasn't able to be there for your whole lives almost, but I could do this one thing for you guys.
Yeah,
Like I could finish and do this last thing. Um,
yeah.
so I did enjoy that. I don't really know how else they would have played his story out.
Well, yeah, I don't know what would have been really satisfying. Because I mean, he's had a pretty tragic life.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone probably thinks he's crazy if you Google his name,
Yeah.
comes up with all these tabloids and stuff. And I mean, the fact that he had heart medication that he outright did not take.
Mm-hmm.
uh, you can. It's not like you go like, well, how do you cross over to the other side? Well, he probably died from his heart failing.
So I think it was the opposite. At first, because he had like the moment and he took the one pill. I think he took the rest of the pills.
Oh, he did take the pill.
Yeah, he took the one pill, right? Yeah,
He
because
did in the mansion.
we were watching the sub and the subtitles with the closed captioning on, and it says
Hmm.
gulping or like swallow, like
Oh,
you know
okay.
like the swallow
Yeah.
thing. Um, so I think what he did was he took the rest of the pills to like kill himself, like either
Hmm.
stop his heart or whatever. I don't know how those pills work, but I assume it would probably slow your heart down or stop it.
Any fate is better than what happened to Liv and Nell.
Bro, dude, I mean, Nell is it's so because she was like going through this like motion, like Liv almost I wanted it to happen.
Well, Liv thought that she was gonna wake up.
Yeah, which I mean, kind of did in her sick way because even her ghost was like wake up still, so she had that idea of like if you need to wake up, like she still felt that. So I don't think she was upset by her choice.
Yeah,
Um,
Nell thinking that she was getting a necklace from her mom.
yeah, like
That's dark.
the house was playing so much mind tricks on her. Oh, that was rough because then she was holding on and she was like mommy or like whatever, and then she fell. Uh, mm, or mm, or she almost got pushed, right? Like I don't even know.
I think she might have got pushed.
It's so rough. But at least they were both quick. I mean, you know,
Well, no, yeah, the worst fate had to have been Abigail though.
Abigail, yeah,
The
because she's choking to death.
like in
Her body's disintegrating from rat poison. I don't even know how that kills you, but it
oh,
seems
it.
horrible.
I mean, I can't imagine
It
it feels
burns
good.
you all. Yeah. Ugh.
The fact that they got away with putting that into a show is kind of crazy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I really enjoyed Haunting of Hill House. John, before we wrap things up, any other things that you wanted to share about your experience watching the show?
I actually have a question to you. Hopefully we get a season 3.
Yeah.
Do you want them to continue along this line of buildings being haunted, like the haunting? Because it was Haunting of Hill House.
Did they use the same house?
No, it was two
It's a
different.
different
Because
set.
well, oh, you mean exactly the same house?
It felt like it was the
Interesting.
same.
It
It
was
felt like
in
it.
the stories. It was different houses because one was in the
Oh yeah,
states,
of
one
course, of
was in.
course.
But They were kind of similar. I don't think they were the same though.
Okay.
I think they were just big creepy estates. But like, would you want them to continue with that idea of haunted houses?
So like if you don't do a haunted house, I want there I still would like there to be, cuz the thing is the haunting of Hill House, the only reason that the show worked logistically is because the family couldn't just leave.
Yeah.
You can't. You invested your entire apparently their life
Hmm.
savings into this thing, and they're gonna go bankrupt if they don't fix it.
Yeah.
With Bly Manor, the the parents dying kind of has a moral
Hmm.
uh, stamp on them, especially with the uncle not wanting to go there because all his
Yeah,
adulterous
and the uncle's
stuff.
not gonna move the kids out because the kids tell ghost stories. Like,
Yeah, so you need to make a reason for it to make sense. But yeah, I would love for them to keep doing what they've been
I
doing.
think I think they could do now. I don't know, maybe like a camp type situation, a haunting of a like a campground,
Sure, but
almost.
just you need to make it so that people can't leave.
Yeah, because the campground, I think it works well for the fact of like maybe you have teenagers or adult camp counselors who this is
Yeah,
their job. They're stuck there for the summer. They can't leave because they're just kids. The kids are stuck there because they're kids. Um, or maybe like a cabin where you're out in the woods. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, you can't. You're almost. This is your life. You're stuck here. This is your house. This is your something. Um,
required living. Yeah.
yeah. Now I wonder if because when did this season? It's 2020, so it took 2 years. I wonder if it's going to be another 2 years. I don't even know if we're going to get another season. Um,
Well, especially if you consider the difficulties with production with COVID, you'd imagine at least 2 years.
yeah, a third installment of Haunting should be on its way. Production could start as late as 2022.
Wow. So we might be 3 years away.
Because he has some movies that or episodes. Midnight Mass. I don't know what that is. He'll direct a revival. So I mean, we are gonna get a third season. Um, which is I enjoy. And you know what? Maybe it is good that we have these long chunks between them, in a sense. Um, so it doesn't necessarily play out the the type of show it is, in a sense. Because like if this was like a every year release, I think it would be a. I mean, it's done so well, so maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is nice to have Halloween content.
Yeah,
I did kind of miss Stranger Things this year.
yeah. Well, maybe that would be nice. Maybe next October we'll get the next Things season because I think they're just starting to film.
I hope
Maybe
so.
we'll get a Stranger Things season, and then the next October we'll get a Haunting season.
I mean, we're gonna have
I
to wait
don't
till then
know,
to get the next Batman related thing. So
man.
give us all the stuff that we can.
Yeah. But I don't know what else I would like to. I don't know what else I'd like to see of it. I think they're doing so well, right? I mean, I don't know. Like you said, I personally like Hill House better. I know I've read a lot in a lot of the Reddit comments that I saw. People like Bly Manor. People really like Bly Manor, and I'm like, I don't know. I think I personally Hill House is my favorite. Maybe it's because it was the first one, so it has that special place in like my heart almost. Um, but I really liked Bly Manor. And I want more. I want more.
Same here.
If there's stories to be told, right? If they're
Yeah,
like
yeah, of course.
we just can't, we don't really have anything else, then I'll be like, damn, that sucks. You'll
Yeah,
have to
no
you'll
cash
eat it.
grabs.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, with that said, I don't really have much else to add to this.
But who else might have stuff to add to this? Is anyone listening or watching out there? Let us
Mm.
know your thoughts on Hill House in either the comment section if you're watching the video, or by tweeting at us. Or I know John posts these to Reddit sometimes, so if you're
Mm-hmm.
listening to this through a Reddit post, leave a comment on your thoughts on what we said and also your thoughts on the show. Last time, I forget who it was, but there was a Reddit comment
I could pull it
that
up
I
real
thought
quick.
was glorious. I love getting those types of comments where people really like teach me something about the show that I didn't pay
Yeah.
attention to, and I thought that was really, really great. And John's gonna pull that up.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
And while he's pulling that up, I'll let you know where you can find me if you want to have discussions about this or anything else that I watch. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Buff Charmander. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Geeks Weekly. I have an interesting video coming up within the next week. It is based on a wrestling character who I think is pretty interesting. It's my first wrestling related video in a couple years and is something that I don't really do often, but this is more so about character and effectiveness of character rather than like, oh, I think this guy should be champion. So be on the lookout for that. And John, did you pull up this comment?
Yes. So there's a couple people who left awesome comments. So I'm just gonna give them all shout outs. Reddit user I am unhitched is one. Um unapologetic spinster.
What up,
That's
Spinster?
another one. AB underscore Emery, Emery. That was the long one. That was the really, really big one. Which
Big
I'm
shout out to
I'm
you.
not gonna lie, I did forget to respond because I was so nervous of writing a response because it was such a well. I mean, AB underscore Emery. If you're listening to this episode and you got this far, huge shout. That comment, like, it touched my soul. Um, I appreciated it so much. It was amazing. So thank you to you. And last one, Sam K Pam 05. All those Reddit users, thank you so much for the comments and the conversation and the ideas. It's so much fun, and this is what we love to do with this podcast. Um, Especially with the ones that we focus around show reviews. It The reason that we love to talk about it with each other is because we just love to talk about it. But if we could build a community who loves to talk about it, that's even more fun because you get more ideas, you get more input, and that's what's great. And if we do get more shows, if you're listening to this and you have ideas for shows that you think we should check out or that you might want to hear reviews on or ideas, let us know, and then maybe we could put up a post or something where we ask questions of like, hey, like, do you have any ideas or inputs or what you'd like to hear us talk about within it, or things that you want us to focus on, and then we could build off of that. Because I would love to build a community around this idea of talking about these shows because it's so much fun, especially when when people tell you things that you didn't realize yourself. It's awesome. But with that said,
1000%.
just remember, you guys can find me at Ginger Girl Gaming pretty much on everything. If you search Ginger Girl Gaming on Twitch, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, you can find it. If you guys just search Ginger Girl Gaming on any podcast feed, it'll come up with my podcast, this podcast, I mean, and Kyle's podcasts with the Geeks Weekly ones because they're underneath the same umbrella banner type thing. So you'll be able to find all of that. And as Kyle said, reach out to us. Let us know what you guys think. If you have any comments, ideas, or if you just want to talk about any of our passions, video games, comics, movies, so on and so forth. That's what we're here for. We love to talk. We love to get sweaty, and it's what we like to do.
Yeah, and right before we get out of here, we're filming this on Sunday, and this is coming out on Tuesday, I believe. Big rest in peace to Alex Trebek.
Yeah, I just
That
saw that while we were.
that rocked me to my core when I saw
This
that
is
earlier.
why does this keep happening to us while we record? Kobe and now
Yeah, yeah, I
another
know.
go Alex Trebek.
Do yourself a favor, go on Twitter and look up all the stuff that people are posting about this man. There is a lot of stuff that's gonna crush your soul, but also really make you feel good about humanity. And I end all of my content on Geeks Weekly by saying, "Stay safe and stay sweaty, my friends." I mean that so much right now with everything going on. Uh, you know, I make a firm stance of not talking about like political issues or anything like that uh, on my content because I want to make sure it's more of like an escape for people. And I'm still going to keep true to that, but I just want to say, stay safe, everyone, please.
Mm-hmm.
and just keep being sweaty and enjoying the stuff that you enjoy.
Exactly. Stay in, watch content, and it'll keep you safe. You know, if you don't leave the house, Kyle, if the kids never leave the house, then they're gonna stay safe, as Liv said.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh God.
so stay in, watch content, and tell us what to watch. We'll watch it too, and then we'll talk
Absolutely.
about it here. And that's all we got for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Especially if you made it this far. And peace out, everybody.
See you next time.